Hello, I'm Kamali, taking you through some of the things people are talking about and some of the stuff they're sharing around the world on NewsFeed today. A new world in Washington, we look at how social media may influence the 116th Congress. Akanksha has a look at a new teenage-led Me Too movement. The Dead Sea is in need of life support, but will the nations in the region see the urgency? And 4 Lion Kings, it's Thursday's Animals Doing Stuff. Well, at the top of our newsfeed, Congress, the next generation. A bunch of new senators and congresspeople will be sworn in today. The youngest, the first Muslim women, the first Native American. And many of them will be attempting to politic Donald Trump style by making the most of social media. Here's Karen.
Social warriors? Could some of these people challenge the undisputed Twitter champion of Washington, D.C.? They are the freshman class of Democrats, about to be sworn into Congress, and they're ready to make the most of the opportunity ahead.
Ordinary members of Congress have a much bigger platform. The size of your Twitter following and the size of your external base makes a huge difference.
Alexandria-ocasio-cortez is the youngest person elected to Congress. She used social media expertly to get elected, and not just Twitter like Trump. She has 1.2 million followers on Instagram and uses it like a 27-year-old.
There's just a lot of people that just don't want to see folks like us run and be a person in public.
The research shows leveraging Instagram could work well for Democrats. The platform skews younger, and that demographic, 18 to 29-year-olds, strongly disapprove of Trump as president. But it's not only young guns or newcomers who will use the power of social to get at Trump. People like Adam Schiff, who Trump tried to diss by deliberately misspelling his surname, has long been a Trump nemesis, and now chairs a committee which will re-examine Trump's relationship with Russia in the run-up to his election and during his time in office. But it's not all beef. Trump has his own social army. People like Dan Crenshaw, also new to Congress this year, who defends Trump's idea for a wall and likes to throw axes at boards. And his son, of course, Donald Trump Jr. Donald Trump has changed forever the way political discourse is held. He has shown repeatedly the power of speaking directly to people, no filter. The question is whether these newbies can effectively emulate him.
Well, meanwhile, Trump began the year in typically bizarre fashion. Hey, why change a good thing? He held a cabinet meeting yesterday. So far, so boring, I hear you say. But for reasons unknown, except maybe to the president himself, he had a movie-sized poster of himself, the president, on the table in front of him. Really? But that's not the best part. See, as Twitter was quick to point out, the poster is a parody of Game of Thrones, a show that features a wall that failed to protect the kingdom. Yet Trump thought it fitting to have the poster there while talking about how well walls work, a wall he wants to protect his kingdom. So good, Mr. President. Keep up the bad work. All right, let's have a look at some of the other things that caught our eye on social media. Well, Hassan Minhaj has responded to Netflix removing one of his shows after complaints from Saudi Arabia. The comic went onto Twitter and wrote, "Clearly, the best way to stop people from watching something is to ban it, make it trend online, and then leave it up on YouTube." He then urges people to donate to Yemen relief charities. Now, Saudi Arabia's monarchy didn't like the fact that the comic called them out for their crimes in Yemen and for their killing of a Saudi journalist in Istanbul. Now, have you seen Bird Box on Netflix? It's got Sandra Bullock, and it's basically zombie apocalypse meets Contagion. It's pretty good, but the internet idiots are ruining it, as they always do, by trying to walk around blindfolded like in the movie. Now, this video here has over 1 million views. It's called the Bird Box Challenge, and it is the worst trend of 2019. Now, Netflix is asking people not to get hurt when doing it, but then how will they learn? And this photo from Greece is going viral. It shows 2 grandparents watching their grandson stand guard at the presidential complex in Athens. They brought their own chairs and everything and just sat and watched him for an hour. That's family pride, and it's beautiful. A YouTuber called Pupsy made some wind instruments out of a squash and some sweet potato and then used them to accompany his synthesizer to cover the 1982 classic Africa by Toto. He then wrote, "The irony of playing Africa with food is incredible," and urged people to make up for it by helping people after watching the video. Whatever you say, Pupsy. Well, the Me Too movement has changed the way we talk about abuse and sexual harassment for good. And although lots of work needs to be done to make sure we put victims first, we've at least begun to talk about the way that abuse happens with the right language. And now there's a space specifically for young people.
My mother turned to me with the spatula in her hand and said, "If you could have any superpower, what could it be?" And I said, "I thought about it for a moment. Invisibility," I responded.
Isabella Coyne has stories to tell, and most of them are not easy to hear.
15 years old. I have been raped, molested, and physically abused since birth.
She's the brain behind the Me Too Teen Project and invites teens from around the world to share their stories of abuse. Izzy was inspired by the Me Too movement, but felt there was no outlet for teenagers and young adults.
It's a site for teens and by teens.
And the website has brought many realizations.
I thought that it was mainly adults who had the mindset and the capability and the gut to come forward, but that is not true. There's so many teens out there and young adults who have just as much, if more, courage than adults do to come forward.
Now teens and young adults from around the world are sharing their stories.
There's some really sad ones.
And Izzy patiently goes through the details before publishing them as anonymous posts. She's also raising money for organizations that treat and prevent teen sexual assault.
There are people who want to hear your story, and there are people who believe you, even if they're in other countries.
Her courage has given hope and solidarity to teenagers under their own Me Too.
Now, a ban on the halal and kosher slaughter of animals has come into effect in a part of Belgium, the latest in a number of European regions to try and stop people practicing their religion freely. Okay, let's go around the world for some other stories you need to know this Thursday. Now, 2 hackers have been taking over people's Chromecast to tell them to subscribe to PewDiePie. He's a YouTuber who's been competing with another channel called T-Series to be the channel with the most subscribers. Now, this is the page that people have been getting on their Chromecasts. It's that one, I think. It's called hashtag, it's that one. It's called hashtag cast hack. And yes, it is the most boring story of 2019, but it's important if you use YouTube. First-class airfare for a tenth of the price sounds like the stuff of dreams, but it came true for a bunch of lucky so-and-sos who got in on a foul-up on the Cathay Pacific website. See, the airline was in sale, and for some reason their computers offered a $16,000 fare for just $675. Cathay Pacific said the mistake was down to human error, and they would be honouring the tickets. Now, people found out about the error when travel bloggers started talking about it on Twitter, and I've started following all the travel bloggers I can find. Oh dear, the ocean cleanup project is broken and needs repairing. We told you about it back in October. A team of people hubristically said they had a device that would clean up the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. Well, it can't. A piece of it is now broken and it will be towed back to port for maintenance and a redesign.
Okay, so this is the baby's heart. These are the 4 chambers of the heart.
Oh, I see. Can we hear the heartbeat?
Yes.
The most viral video of 2018 has been announced, and it's gone to Kylie Jenner for this. It's called To Our Daughter. It's been watched by 18 million people, and it is 11 minutes of oversharing. Olivia Newton-John is not dead. There have been rumours on social media that she had weeks to live. Well, the legendary actress has twice beaten cancer and put this video on Twitter for her fans, quoting Mark Twain.
Rumours of my death have been greatly exaggerated, to quote a very famous quote. And I'm doing great. I want to wish all of you the happiest, healthiest 2019 that's possible. And thank you all for your wonderful love and support for me and for my Olivia Newton-John Cancer Wellness Centre in Melbourne, Australia. Thank you so much. Happy New Year.
Next up, the Dead Sea is on course to live up to its name and disappear from the earth entirely.
Its minerals were desired by the ancient pharaohs, and it's said that its mud was the secret behind Cleopatra's beauty. The Dead Sea marks the lowest point on Earth. It's 430 meters below sea level, and it's disappearing fast. The Dead Sea could be gone by 2050.
We are standing inside, basically ground zero. We are standing where the Earth swallows you. It will take a lot of time.
Scientists say climate change and human consumption is to blame.
If you keep on taking fresh water from nature, from the Sea of Galilee or from the Euphrates, for example, we will eventually ruin the local environment. We are standing where we can learn the first lesson of we can't exploit all the water the way we want to. We need to take care of nature as well, or else we will all sink with it.
Factories nearby extract minerals by evaporating water. Sinkholes now dot most of the shoreline, which has shut seaside resorts due to the danger it poses. The Salt Lake runs close to 100 kilometers through Israel, the occupied West Bank, and Jordan. It's losing about a meter in depth every year, and it would take a concerted effort from the countries to save it.
Manufacture more water in the Mediterranean, produce renewable energy in the desert areas, and create healthy interdependencies amongst us, Israelis, Palestinians, Jordanians first, or we're going to see potentially more conflict arising out of these increasingly scarce water resources.
The sea of biblical importance needs a new lease of life before it dies completely.
Well, it is our first Animals Doing Stuff of 2019, and we are starting off the year strong. Now, this video is going super viral of 4 male lions showing everyone who is really the king of the jungle by stopping traffic in the Kruger Park in South Africa. Speed up a little bit. That's all from the NewsFeed team. Reach out to me with your questions, comments, complaints and suggestions. I'm at Kamali Melbourne. You'll find us 24/7 on Twitter and YouTube. Follow and subscribe. See you again tomorrow.